and this is a more personal question to each of you, and is that, ignoring your quiz results, do you personally believe you're more logical or more emotional as a person?
More logical. I would say I'm more logical. I don't know if anyone else would like. I think I'm more logical. And just based on the fact of how I chose my GCSEs and A-levels.
What did you choose?
This is how I logically thought about it. I thought, what degree did I want to get? And this was back when I was 14. So I chose at 14, what degree did I want to get in 4 years' time? So I said I wanted to do a law degree. What A-levels do you need for a law degree, or what are favorable A-levels that you need? So then I picked my A-levels, and then I picked my GCSEs based on what A-levels I wanted to do. So that's kind of my thought process on how to do it. And based on that,
did that turn out how it's meant to turn out? Are you doing a law degree?
No, well, things changed. I think I opted for the free option, which was to do a degree apprenticeship.
Fair enough.
That's also, I realized how lazy I was, and I didn't want to spend 6 years in law school, so I opted for an economics degree.
Understandable.
I did choose history, though. I chose history, and I chose all the A-levels that I was meant to have to get that law degree. I chose them. Did I actually do the law degree? No, because I was lazy. So it's just, two different things.
Fair enough. Nolan, Shan, what about you two? Are you more logical or are you more emotional in your everyday lives and as a person?
I'd say more logical. I had a fairly similar thinking process as Jasmine, but like with my GCSEs, it was just like, what subject am I good at? Boom. When it came to A-levels, what subjects did I do best in? What degree uses all these subjects? And then, so that, in that sense, that was like, it was similar to Jasmine in that logical thing. But yeah, generally, I feel like I'm more logical.
And Jan?
I want to say like 50-50, but part of me says a tad bit more emotional. And I say that because I think I'm more aware of the emotions of others and what's going on around me. So I would say maybe I'm more emotionally intelligent than more logical, if that makes sense. I hope that doesn't come across like a bit.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I would say that.
So what would you guys say has influenced the fact that so in Nolan and Jasmine's case, you're more logical, and in Shan's case, you're more emotional? What do you think has led to that? Or what has impacted or shaped that?
Life.
My life. My family.
Man said life as a general statement, you're not gonna give us like no specifics, otherwise this is gonna be a very short episode,
Just general experiences, just general childhood trauma, your family, your friends, just everything. Everything that your environment growing up, everything decides that.
Yeah, I will say family was a big influence, just because I was told what I was going to do, which was be a lawyer at the beginning. And so everything I ever did up until GCSEs was geared towards becoming a lawyer. Like literally everything. I played 2 instruments. I took Latin. I did Mandarin. Like everything was geared towards that goal. And based on that, I prioritized knowledge rather than friendship and emotions. But I think that's a a family thing as well, because my family isn't emotional anyway. We're not too in touch with our emotions, and we won't be in touch with other people's emotions. So when people are emotional about something that I think doesn't need emotions to be involved, I do find it weird.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just, you know what I mean? Like if someone's like crying over a celebrity, which we've seen a lot of that last year, I don't really understand it too much, because that celebrity will never know who you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never, I've not, even with like other things that people care about, I don't care. So, and I think it's weird that you care. So it's just, but yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
understand. I understand what you're saying. Also,
Go ahead. I'll
I
circle
understand what
back
you're
to it.
saying, because there are a lot of things that I find like very weird when people get emotional. But as weird as I might find it, I still like try to understand why they're emotional by it. You know what I mean? It will never make sense in my mind, but at the same time, I will still try and find a way to understand why they're this emotional about whatever it is. You know what I mean? So as much as I can't relate to them, I'll still like think about the emotional side of everything behind it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what
Just to understand them. Yeah. So it's good that you could get that.
and just to piggyback on what Jasmine said, yeah, I always find when people like are emotional, crying, or upset over certain situations, which not me necessarily, I don't think they should be upset about. Like, I'm from the school of thought, okay, something bad has happened. What can we do to now fix it? What's the logical solution? What's the logical outcome for this? This is not the time to be crying. This is the time to be finding solutions and actions.
Exactly.
That's my school of thinking. So I do find it hard at times to be emotional, think emotion, and understand why someone might be upset or sad over this situation. Because me personally, I think, oh yeah, come on. This is time for action, not for crying. This is time to be doing stuff. But yeah,
Can I
so it
just
has.
say, sorry to cut you up. Um, yes, I agree to an extent. I'm piggybacking off Nolan's comment earlier. Sometimes I think it's hard for us all to understand why people might be upset about something that might seem really small and stupid. That will seem really small and stupid to us. But that's because we don't fully understand what is going on. We're only seeing one side, not everything. And I think that happens all the time, where we only see one side of things and we don't fully consider the whole picture. So then that causes us to maybe judge or, speculate, and it always happens whether we like it or not. But I think there's always two sides to one story. But I do think, like, I agree with Tommy, like, we should be logical in thinking, okay, what can we do next? How can we move on from the problem? But I do think that there does need to be a bit of compassion there as well, because that person, to them, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And if we care about that person, we want to help them. So, yeah.
And jumping off both Tommy and Chantel, Tommy was talking about finding a solution, but it doesn't well, for me at least, it doesn't make sense for me to just tell them just to do this, just to help them, just to get it as a solution. You know what I mean? If I don't understand the person, I can't give them a solution that's best for them. So that's why I feel like I have to understand the emotional aspect just to find a way to get them to where they need to go, and the best way for them, rather than just telling them, oh, this, like a general instruction or something.
I will say there are some situations when people are just emotional, you just sit there, you listen, and you strategize in your own head. And then when they finished crying and they've paused in their emotional spout, that's when you're like, okay, this, to my understanding, this is your problem. So this is the list of things I've come up with possible solutions to fix it, right? Because you can't be moping here all day, every day. That is not how you should be living life. It leads to further problems, anxiety, depression. We don't want that. So we've got to find some. But instead of trying to understand the problem, because I know I will never understand, and so I don't try to, I will let them rant, cry, anything, whatever it is. I will listen, sit there, strategize in my own head. And then once they've finished or slowly start finishing up, that is when I will speak and tell them, all right, this is what I think.
Yeah,
And then that's the type of friend I am, right? That's kind of how, when people come to me with a problem or they confide in me with an issue, when they do that, that is the kind of response they want, usually, when a person comes to me. I've never really tried to change that about myself. And I've tried to keep consistent with that. And that's kind of what I think is the best, because if you're in that situation and you have a very big problem and it's an actual serious problem, you need someone there to actually be thinking logically, not joining in and being emotional with you. That is not what you need. That's not what I think you need.
I don't think you need to join in as such. You don't need to
No, but I mean,
But-
this is about emotion versus logic. We are all our results were okay. Me and Tommy's results were 71% logical. Imagine if we had someone in this group 71% emotional. So you're telling me that they won't be crying with you if you're
with
crying.
the individual. Yeah, they will be crying.
They will be if they are 71% emotional. It's just because what our results are that we're like, oh no, they won't be. No, there are people out there that do that, and they aren't useful people. You know.
It's true.
I mean, I won't go that far.
In that, they are. Relax, Jasmine. They are useful, but in that scenario,
not if you have an actual problem.
If you have an actual problem, they'll be crying with you. They're the worst type of people to have.
But Jasmine, sorry.
And I was just going to say that the point Jasmine makes goes back to a previous episode we did on opening up, and how the fact that when you do open up to an individual, it depends what you open up for. Do you want solution? Because if you're coming to me, you're coming to me with solution, because listen, I'll give you what you can do here, what you can do here, what you can do here, what you can do. I'm not the type of, you can come to me to vent, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, listen, there's solutions are coming out. I'm helping you find solutions to this problem. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add. So Nolan, the floor is yours. Continue.
I wanted to for what Jasmine said about someone else, mention someone 71% emotional. If someone is 71% emotional, you can tell that they're emotional. No one is gonna go to someone that emotional for help, because you know that. Just like you said, I'm not saying they're gonna be useless, but useless in terms of advice and help and everything. You know they're gonna be useless. So anyone that goes to someone who's that emotional for help, it's just not okay.
But
as we said,
it's hard because if you're fortunate enough to have loads of friends, right, and you have an idea of who is useful for what, as in terms of if you have a problem, if you want to confide in someone, if you have loads of friends, it's great for you. But there are people that only have one or two friends, and if both of them are 71% emotional, where are you gonna go? What is happened to you?
That is telling you to find new friends. That's what that is. That is what that is telling you. You need to branch out and find some new friends.
I will say it's easier said than done. Some people can say that, right? And say, yes, just go find new friends. Find new friend where? You know what I mean?
Listen.
No, you're going to walk up to a random person in the street and be like, I want to be your friend.
A few moments later.
No, I'm just saying it's easier said than done, right? If you find it difficult in general, because let's say someone who is let's say 90% logical, those people who tend to be more logical and only think in logic and don't have that much emotion about them, it's very hard for them to make friends. They
tend to be psychopaths.
They tend to be really introverted. They don't go out. They have one friend from when they were 3 years old, and that is it. and they don't like interacting with people. They don't like people touching them. They don't like anything. And then what are you going to do? There are people like that exist. There are people, I'm pretty sure some of you know people like that, because I can name 5 already that are exactly like that I know. Then what? Those people will only have an emotional 71% emotional, 29% logic, and that their life is ruined because they're not going to have any advice.
But if they're 90% logical, they tend not to get emotional anyway. So, I mean.
But they're also the ones that if something bad happens, it hits them the worst because they experience a sudden rush of emotions that they don't usually like to, or they suppress. This is more of a psychological thing rather than a psychology thing, or rather than a
sociological.
Yeah, it's when they suddenly have to experience emotion like a death in the family.
Yeah, that's true.
Them because
it's true. They take it hard. They don't know how to process said emotion. They don't know how to process said emotion. So as a result of that, they spiral.
So I don't know. That's just my opinion, guys. That's just how I see it. If you're fortunate to have friends that will give you proper advice, great. But not everyone does. And
sad facts of life. So we'll move off that top. We'll move off that and we'll move on to our next question.